Hey, Algebra 2A, here's an explanation on this number 4 after we've done some reflections and translations. Number 4 is tough in a couple ways. I'm going to rewrite it first just before we analyze it. Usually we have just the argument first, of the square root of x minus 2. And then this negative 6, it's tacked onto the front. I'm going to bring it off to the back because that's how we've been thinking about it. So what I'm looking at here is a square root function. So I think that's the square root of x. And then it has been reflected over the x-axis. And it has also been brought 2 to the right and down 6. So here's two options to think about this. I'm going to do first a visual one before I even put it on the graph and kind of analyze what's going to happen. I take the square root function. I just think of it like this. I'm going to put dots there to think of my important points, but I'm not even going to worry about graphing them yet. That's my square root function. Then I'm going to go over thinking about reflecting over x-axis. So I'm going to think now it's going this way. It's been flipped over the x-axis. And then I think of going right 2, down 6. So this anchor point, I call it, that important point that was at 0, 0, is now going to be at 2 over and 6 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 2, negative 6. Now visually, because I know the pattern that in the square root function I go 1 over and 1 up, and then 4 over and 2 up. I'm going to work on this point down at 2, negative 6, and I'm going to think about that as going now, instead of 1 over, 1 up, it's 1 down and 1 over. So what used to be 2, negative 6 is now going to be 3, negative 7. And if I go 4 over and 2 down, that's going to be, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, negative 8. So I have the pattern of this square root function. And so I've done a lot of work here before I even put it onto the official graph. I know now that I'm going to be working right in the 4th quadrant, so I'm going to set up my quadrant, or my axes, so that all I really see is the 4th quadrant. And I'm going to put 2, negative 6, 1, 2, 2, 4, 6. I think that's 2, negative 6. And then do the work that I've done and place those points in there. 1 over, 1 up, or sorry, 1 over, 1 down. 1, 2, 3, 4 over and 2 down. That should be 3, negative 7 and 6, negative 8. And then if I wanted to, I know that I go 9 over and then 4 down, or sorry, 3 down. Square root of 9 is 3. So I'm going to add 9 to the 2 and subtract 3 from the 6. So that should be 11, negative 9 is my kind of the last point I'm going to put in there. 11, negative 9. Let's see. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Right there. That looks like the square root pattern, but now it's been reflected and gone right 2 and down 6. I'm going to rewrite that as z of x equals negative square root of x minus 2 minus 6. Okay, if that didn't work for you, here is another option. I'd call this a little bit more of the table patterns of this. So I'm going to actually erase nearly everything of the work I've done and kind of start fresh and think of the square root function in terms of the table. These analyses still are the case. It's a square root function. It's been reflected over the x-axis. I'm going right 2 and down 6. but I'm going to look at it as the original square root function, and then I'm going to start with my very first important points. And I'm going to graph those. In the square root function, it's 0, 0, it's 1, 1, it's 4, 2, and it's 9, 3. Those are kind of, there's an infinite number, of course, but those are the ones that are nice and easily graphable. And I'm going to take these transformations step by step. To reflect over the x-axis, I'll put that on the first column next to the important points. Reflect over x-axis really means that I'm changing the y-coordinate. So it's going to go from xy to x negative y. See what I'm doing there? It used to be xy. Now reflecting over the x-axis makes it x negative y. So I'm going to go through each of those points and change the sign of the y-coordinate. This one doesn't change. This changes to 1, negative 1, 4, negative 2, and 9, negative 3. Reflect over x-axis, done. Now, right 2, down 6. I'll take it in the right 2 down first, the right 2 first. If you want to do it together to right 2 down 6, you can make it in one column. But since this is really the first time that I'm showing you this, I'm going to take it one at a time. Right 2 means I subtract, I'm really taking x minus 2, and then whatever my y-coordinate was. Now this gets a little confusing. I want to make sure that you're taking the x-coordinate and keeping the y from this previous column, because we're going in sequential order. So this is now negative 2, 0. And hold on a second. Right 2 means I got to add 2. My bad. That makes sense now. It's going to be 2, 0, 3, negative 1, 6, negative 2, and 11, negative 3. Almost done. I've done the right 2, and now the down 6 means whatever the x-coordinate was, I'm going down 6. So I'm going to keep whatever that x was, and now it's y minus 6. And these notes here are reflecting what's happening to the previous column. So the 2 stays the same, and now it's negative 6. I've subtracted 6 from the y-coordinate. 3, negative 7, 6, negative 8, and 11, negative 9. Hopefully these new points, 2, negative 6, 3, negative 7, 6, negative 8, and 11, negative 9 match what I did earlier. Okay, so your table pattern, the points will be the same, and how you choose to kind of organize what's happening here, going sequentially, reflecting, going right 2 and down 6, might change a little bit. But there's an introduction to number 4. I think it's one of the toughest ones.